is Chris Hayes using a race quota when it comes to booking guests on his show? This is something that was written about by Joe Concha, and he makes the argument that, you know, while Chris Hayes likes to brag about the diversity he has on his show, it's not necessarily the right way to go when you deny certain guests just to have diversity on the panel.
Yep.
So there are two pieces of evidence that indicate that this is actually happening. The first piece is a tweet that Chris Hayes tweeted out, and it was basically a graph showing that his show is the most diverse compared to all the other shows.
You see how there's a majority of whites in other shows, and his is not a majority. So
right, and his is the last show up with Chris Hayes. And then also, he was speaking to university students, and he said the following: we would just look at the board and say, we already have too many white men, we can't have more. Really, that was it. Always, constantly just counting, monitoring the diversity of the guests along gender lines and along race and ethnicity lines. A general rule is if there are 4 people sitting at table, only 2 of them can be white men. Often it would be less than that. So, is this a controversy? Is he guilty or not guilty?
drop it. Supreme Court's in session. We've got a lot of conflicted feelings about this. Now, let me note for the record that I'm a fan of Chris. I think he does a really interesting show. I'm thrilled that he got the 8 o'clock show because he's definitely, to say the least, among the most progressive members of the MSNBC talent pool. And I don't say that with any sarcasm at all. He really is a progressive, and I'm really happy he got the 8 o'clock. So, and honestly, I'm surprised he got it. Mm-hmm. So that's terrific. Okay, now I'm going to disagree with his quota a little bit. For my purposes, I know that all shows do this kind of informally. Anna, you were making the point off air. Mm-hmm. When we do a panel, hey, maybe we should get a woman on there. So, yeah, I get that. But counting how many white men are on and not on, it's not for me. I don't like it at all, to be honest.
I think that it's a good idea to be aware of diversity or lack of diversity on your show. That way, if there is, let's say, a female guest or a black guest or a Latina guest, whatever, that could make the same points or could be just as good as the white guy on the show, then sure, have some diversity on the panel. But if you're denying certain people that would be great guests in the name of diversity, then I think that's a bad idea. And also, you don't want people to be like the tokens on the show. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, we're talking about a woman's issue, so here's the token woman.
Yeah, but to be fair to Chris, he doesn't do that.
No, he doesn't do that, but I think that some shows easily cross that boundary.
See, if you're not bright, yeah, then you wind up just filling the quotas and it's just hodgepodge and it's nonsense, right?
Exactly.
To be, again, and I'm just saying this because it's true, Chris does a really good job of having thoughtful people on his show. When he was on the weekends up with Chris Hayes, and he was making a real effort to find those thoughtful people from different categories, which I think is great. Just the way he said that about, well, I can't have more than 2 white men, that's the only thing that rubs me the wrong way.
I think it has to be, to a level, a formal thing. And not that you have to go so hardcore with it. If you have 3 white guests, fine, whatever. Or it's not like you break that rule and the show is over, But it's so easy to overlook it and just continue to have, a freight train of guests that don't really speak to your entire audience, or maybe not even speak on the subject as well because they don't have the right experience with it. Then it makes sense to be aware of what you're doing.
I would let Amir speak on this too, but I can't have 2 Middle Eastern men in the same panel.